A poor waitress greeted billionaire CEO's Italian dad. Her Italian greeting had every guest frozen. The moment Lucia stepped into the grand banquet hall of the Aurora Hotel, the world smelled of polished marble, expensive suits, and dishes she could never afford. She clutched the serving tray close to her chest, her fingers trembling from exhaustion after working double shifts, but her eyes steady with quiet determination. She had no luxury to rest. Her younger brother's medical bills were growing, and every hour she earned mattered. Yet, as she moved through the glittering room full of executives, celebrities, and business magnates, she carried herself with a grace that didn't match her worn-out shoes or faded uniform. But everything changed the moment the billionaire CEO, Daniel Roswell, walked in with his father, an elderly man with silver hair, sharp posture, and a distant expression that hinted at a life filled with power, pride, and history. And in that instant, an unexpected twist unfolded. Lucia greeted him with a soft, fluent Italian phrase, and the entire hall went silent. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of unexpected moments, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Soulful Stories to support inspiring videos like this one. The hush that fell across the room felt strange even to Lucia. She hadn't meant to draw attention. It was simply a reflex from her childhood, years spent in a small, cozy home with a grandmother who cherished Italian music, stories, and traditions. Lucia never imagined that her simple greeting could crack open a memory buried deep within the billionaire's father. His cold eyes softened with an emotion she didn't recognize, and for a brief second, the powerful men around him exchanged puzzled glances. Lucia hurried away, unsure if she had made a mistake. She had been warned not to speak unnecessarily to guests, and especially not to the high-profile ones. But as she hid behind the tall floral arrangement near the kitchen entrance, she couldn't shake the feeling that something about that moment had stirred the old man's soul. The evening continued with ceremony and extravagance, but Lucia's thoughts drifted back to her life outside those shining walls. She lived with her little brother in a cramped apartment where the ceiling leaked during rainstorms, where hope often felt like a distant luxury. Her brother, 8-year-old Matteo, had a gentle smile despite his sickness, and that smile was the fire that kept Lucia moving even on the days she felt like collapsing. She had no family left except him, no one else to fight for. Every plate she carried, every table she cleaned, every cold comment she endured, it was all for Matteo's treatment. She had lost her dreams long ago, but she refused to lose him. While she quietly worked in the background, Daniel Roswell observed her. He was a man used to reading people, Wall Street sharks, investors, negotiators. But this waitress confused him. She moved with humility yet carried herself with a depth that didn't belong to someone overlooked by the world. The moment she spoke to his father, a man who rarely reacted to anything, Daniel noticed the tremor in the old man's hands and the way his eyes glistened. Something about that girl had unlocked a memory he never talked about. Daniel watched his father later slip away from the crowd and wander in search of her, but with the noise, lights, and movement, she was nowhere to be found. Hours passed before Lucia reappeared, balancing a tray with trembling arms, her legs nearly giving out. The old man approached her slowly, leaning on his cane, and asked her the same phrase she had spoken, only this time, his voice cracked with emotion. Lucia responded once more, softly and respectfully, unaware that every guest around them was turning to look. She had no idea that the phrase she used was the same one his late Italian wife, the love of his life, used to greet him every morning for 40 years. For decades after her passing, he had closed that chapter of his heart, refusing to let anyone in. Yet, a simple greeting from a tired waitress had reopened the door. Lucia apologized, thinking she had offended him, but the old man gently placed a hand over hers. His eyes shone with gratitude, not anger. That single moment changed the atmosphere entirely. The guests no longer saw Lucia as just a waitress. They saw her as a reminder of love, memory, and the fragility of life. Daniel, watching his father's face transform with warmth he hadn't seen in years, approached and asked Lucia how she knew Italian. Her story spilled out not for sympathy, but because she believed truths shouldn't be hidden. She told them about her grandmother, about Matteo, about the sacrifices she made. Her voice remained steady even as emotion filled her eyes. When the event ended and Lucia thought the night was over, Daniel quietly approached her outside the hotel. She braced herself, expecting reprimand or dismissal for speaking too much. Instead, he told her that her kindness had changed something in his father that he thought was lost forever. He asked about Matteo's condition, about her life, about the burden she carried alone. Lucia didn't expect anything from the conversation. She had learned long ago not to expect miracles. But Daniel walked away with a thoughtful expression she didn't understand. The next morning, everything shifted. Lucia was preparing for another grueling shift when a car stopped outside her building. Daniel himself stepped out, holding documents and a gentle smile. He told her that after discussing with his father, they wanted to cover Matteo's treatment in full. No conditions, no debt, no strings. Lucia froze, tears flooding her vision as her world spun. The weight she had carried for years suddenly felt lighter, almost too light to be real. She sank to her knees, overwhelmed, while Daniel reassured her that she deserved kindness just as much as she gave it. As Matteo received proper care, Lucia's strength slowly returned. She found herself smiling more, breathing deeper, living instead of merely surviving. Daniel and his father became silent guardians in her life, helping from a distance but never making her feel small. And Lucia, with her heart full of gratitude, vowed to keep spreading kindness the way her grandmother had taught her, one small act at a time. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Soulful Stories to support more meaningful content. Before you go, let us know in the comments, what moment in this story moved you the most? Lucia's journey reminds us that sometimes, a simple greeting, a small kindness, can change a life forever.